Hello, welcome to Tigers, blah, blah, blah. And you can hear my co-host, Rich Walker.
Hello.
And Luke Flanagan is me. Hello. We've got Ryan Williams coming on shortly. So thank you for downloading. And we'll be back very shortly. Our guest today is a man who's been through, well, if you look at his Wikipedia page, it's a big list of clubs. So we've got Ryan Williams with us today, and amongst others, because we won't list them all, because otherwise we'd be here all day, I think. But we started his career at Mansfield Town, moved to Tranmere Rovers, Chesterfield, then obviously Hull City, the important one. And we've had a load of other clubs afterwards as well. One of the other ones I might get to, Ryan, later on is your time at North Ferriby United. I was quite interested in that. And then obviously you've been to Gainsborough, Scarborough, Mansfield, East Yorkshire, Carnegie, which I might also ask you a little bit about. And then you're currently still with All Road Rangers, is that right?
Well, literally, what it was, I literally stopped playing probably about 3 or 4 months ago. Originally, basically, my friend who was running it, and I knew quite a lot of people who played for them, and I just helped them out really. And basically, it just stopped probably about 4 months ago, really. So I literally stopped playing. So all I do now is just play vets, really. So
I bet you rip it up the head.
It's like anything, age puts pay to anything, doesn't it, mate? So,
yeah, absolutely.
But,
age and lifestyle for some of us.
It's like I used to say all the time, thinking, well, I'll be all right forever. But literally, when they say you hit 35, I understand what they mean now.
Well, me and Rich aren't that far off that, so that's a little bit
listen,
worried.
you two will understand eventually then.
Yeah, we will. When we start playing vets and you scoot past us.
Listen, I'll be probably hitting that 50 mark, so I don't expect
to. Great stuff. Right, so obviously this is Tigers podcast, so I'm going to base a lot of the questions around City because that's what a lot of people will want to listen to. But obviously you are still around the area, so we will get to the other stuff in a bit. But obviously you'd signed, I think, actually. You signed for Brian Little, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Like I say, obviously Brian brought me to the club at a time when obviously the club was probably in a big transition, really. As you're probably well aware, there was a lot of signings at the time. Adam Pearson obviously took over, and there's a big reflux of people coming in, and it'd been through a lot of bad times, really. And I didn't realise really till I come to the club how actually big it was. Obviously I've been at, obviously I was born in Mansfield and I started there, and been to Tranmere, who obviously they was in the championship at the time, and I was a young lad still learning my trade and stuff like that. But then obviously got the chance to come back and play for Chesterfield, which is where mum and dad lived. My mum and dad lived, so, and I'd always been to school in Chesterfield as well. So obviously when I come to Hull, I played against Hull before.
And you'd ripped us up as well.
Well, something. If I had £1 for every time I heard that saying, I'd be a rich man. But it's but it is what it is. The thing is, obviously, going back to it. Obviously, when I come back to Hull, when I got here, honestly it was surreal. I didn't realise how big this football club was, and and the heritage and stuff like that, and how big the fan base was as well, really.
What was it about City, Ryan, that made you leave Chesterfield? Because obviously you've been promoted the season before, and the move was for City at the time. It was a relatively big money one. What was it about the move that made you think you would be willing to come back down the division?
Well, the thing was, obviously I had a few options. We'd had a successful season, for Chesterfield that year. Also, probably, to be fair, controversial really as well, because what had happened, and there was us in Cardiff going for promotion really, and obviously a lot of scandal really going behind the scenes and stuff like that. But it was more, I think it was more that obviously, when someone comes calling like Brian Little and what he's done, and teams he's managed and what it's just, I've never had that before, and I was a young lad, and I was still. And, it's a bit surreal thinking, well, actually, a club like this size and, So I played there, and probably it was the biggest game of the season we played there.
Yeah, and the atmosphere was fantastic that day as well.
You know that, and that always stuck in my mind as well. So I was thinking, well, do you know what? Imagine this club where if we could get it, going in the right direction again, it'd be some place to go and play football.
Because we had a great start that season when you signed, didn't we? So we spoke to Laurie about this last week.
We did, yeah. Like I said, well, not for myself, because after 20 minutes of my first game of the season, I got stretched off. So
yeah, I remember that because I was at the game and I remember seeing you sitting in the stand away to the left of the City fans after you've been subbed off with injury, and you must have been thinking, fucking hell, first game of the season.
Well, it was, as a player, that's probably the worst start you could have. You think, well, you want to get up and flying and playing, and then all of a sudden, after 15, 20 minutes, someone lands on top of you, and you've torn your medial ligament, and you're going to be out probably a good few months. So straight away, it puts you back a little bit, And
did you think that obviously you got injured so early on? Did you find it like more of a struggle, like to try and?
Do you know what I did? I did really, and because I wanted really to. I really, I wanted to make the most of it. When I come here, I was keen. I was a young kid. I was keen, and I wanted to make a point. I wanted to obviously kick on my career and stuff like that. And I wanted to hit the ground running really. And I just thought this was like a massive setback. But obviously, I wanted to get back as quick as I could. And as in our injuries now, obviously you can only. You can't get it. Only happens when it happens. You can't get back any quicker.
Yeah.
So it was a case of like just being patient, really.
Which we're talking like 19 years ago, because I know a lot of people will just say, "Oh, well, he'll be out 3 months, he'll be out 6 months," and then they start to rush back. But there wasn't the same kind of medical advancement in like injury healing then, I don't think, was there? If you had a bad injury, there wasn't a lot of chance that you were going to speedily recover, was there?
No, there wasn't. No, like I say, I was fortunate really because, I this is something I'll praise City for as well. At the time, we had a guy, obviously a knee specialist called Keith Warner, and he was the Great Britain Rugby League physio, and he was a massive knee specialist. So I got the best possible care I could ever get, really. So I can't thank them enough. City did everything in their power to help me really. But obviously, with knees, they'll repair when they want to repair.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, if you're trying to rush back, then you're just going to do more damage.
Exactly, mate. And that's the most frustrating thing for me. So when I first come there, I start back probably on a back foot, really.
I suppose it helps with rehabbing the injury as well, like knowing that Theo Whitmore was maybe ahead of you as the right winger at that time, and he wasn't really a right winger. So it's not like when you come back, there's somebody who's going to have really put a mark on saying that's my place. You're still maybe aware that you're the first choice in that position once you're fully fit.
That's right. Yeah. Obviously, when I come to the club, Adam and Brian at the time, the gaffer, they made it clear they was obviously building long term, and they wanted to, they see me as obviously Theo was Theo, and I can't really speak high enough about this guy.
No,
I'll be honest. I was privileged to share the same field as him, really. Till I played against him, but till I actually trained with him every day, I didn't realise how tip top this guy was, really.
What was it like? What was it like to train with Ryan? Was he a big joker, or was he just like quiet?
I've done a few interviews, and people have asked me a few questions, and basically about all my football career, and they've said, "Oh, who's the kid who the guy who's had the most ability, or and he's come top of my list on every single occasion, really."
It amazed me that he never played higher. I always thought him and Ian Goodison should have played a lot higher than they both did.
Well, Theo, to be fair, you look at Theo's obviously his career. He's played in World Cups and he's scored in World Cups as well, which that speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? But
yeah,
it's when you look at them two, they're both the characters in their own right. They're laid back, as you can imagine. You're not going to get much out of them at the end of the day. And they were lucky that Brian Little at the time, obviously, he knew how to manage them. So, and then obviously could get the best out of them. But going back to Theo and even Ian, really, they were fantastic guys and fantastic people, and it was a pleasure to play with them both, really.
When you arrived, there was like 13 new players, weren't there?
Yeah, it was. It was crazy, really, because obviously when I moved, I actually stayed in a hotel for around. It must have been 6-7 weeks.
We've heard about this hotel.
Have you heard about this hotel? Yeah, no.
Laurie said.
Obviously, Laurie stayed in it as well. So
yeah, he said last week that he didn't know how a Hull City player could ever have stayed in that hotel ever again.
Honestly, it was unbelievable. So, like, obviously, you're talking. I'm not even kidding you. There must have been 12 lads in there at one time. Obviously, who'd signed, from further afield and stuff like that. And we literally had more or less one section of that hotel. It was just on. Yeah, well, you can well imagine it was crazy. But do you know what? The hotel staff and stuff there were fantastic and looked after us, and it was just a case to just settle down, and get to know each other really.
Yeah, I suppose that'd help you kind of settle in, because if everybody's really really new, then you've all got that in common, haven't you? Because if you're all staying in the same section, I suppose your friendships, your bonding, it's a lot easier in that position, isn't it? You're not just like one new signing and you feel like you're an outsider. If there's loads of new guys all together, that's something that'll help you to kind of fit in with the club, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the thing, over the seasons, obviously, we played against each other quite a lot. These different lads who would, and we find ourselves as teammates, but we played against each other a lot of the time over probably season and a half. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves we're together. So it's an important part, and when there's that many people in, and they're the same as me. I'll be honest, I was a nervous wreck. I was only a young boy. I was like thinking, "Ooh, I'm away from home here. What am I doing?" kind of thing. And this is I don't know. Can I get used to this kind of thing? And the big factors in your life, really, aren't they?
Yeah, you were only about 22, 23 when you were at that time.
I was. Obviously, I lived away from home when I was at Tranmere, but for a couple of years. But then, obviously, when I moved back to Chesterfield, my mum and dad lived in Chesterfield anyway, so I just moved home, and you just get used to it, don't you?
It's comfort zone, I suppose.
That's exactly the comfort zone. So I was just like, I could get used to this, and then eventually, when I'm thinking I have to fend for myself again, the big culture shock in it. So. I think when I'm going to have to iron and wash myself, is something good.
So if we just once you obviously started to get back in the team after your injury, when I was reading, Rich mentioned it last week, but the Decade by Rich Gardner's brilliant. So it covers all that era, and obviously me and Rich, we grew up together. Although Rich said it's a little bit like misleading because I don't think we ever actually grew up, us two. But we always stood on South Stand together, didn't we, Rich?
On the terrace.
On the terraces. And like reading that book and knowing like there's more information about what we were going through at the time is really interesting, because you read it and you go, oh, I remember that. I remember this player. But when I read it, it said that you were sent off against Macclesfield just before Brian Little left. And I'll be honest, I can't remember that.
Well, I can, because
that's why I asked you.
I can remember my pay packet and it, haven't I? But yeah, that was a foolish thing on my part. Again, young, naive, stupid boy, opening his mouth too much. Same old.
Was that what it was? Was it second yellow?
It was a second yellow, but basically what happened was. I'm not defending myself at all, but it was.
This is your opportunity.
Well, listen, I'll try anyway, best I can. But there was a kid called Danny Whittaker who played for them. Ball lad. He was like been about a bit, and I played against him a number of times. And we had a bit of an eagle kind of thing. We'd have that over. Played Macclesfield probably 4 or 5 times, before I came along.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a spat every now and then. So anyway, he come to the stage and he nailed me, to be fair. And the ref obviously just didn't do anything, just let it go.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know what this guy's about. I don't even like. And you know what? In the back of my mind, I was thinking, ref, you've got to do something here. It's like, you can't just continue this. You can't just keep letting him go, smashing through the back of me. I can't handle this. It was like, I'm not a puppet. So it was like, anyway, he'd done it probably 3 times. So anyway, the 3rd time, he didn't book him. So I said to the ref, well, I can't repeat what I said, but I said,
no, you can.
Basically, I said, are you going to do something about this or what? So he went, well, no. And that kid was just laughing, which was winding me up even more.
Oh.
So anyway, he'd done it again. So I was like, this was like within like minutes as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, I'd just red mist. I was like, I called him something along the lines of like, have you got cataracts in your eyes or something like that?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Something along that. Are you? And then you cheating at FFF, bastard. But basically all them lines. But it weren't clever, and probably looking back, I deserved it. So, but it was just it at the moment,
Was it 2 yellows?
It was 2 yellows. It was because what had happened is obviously it done me for. I'd actually got booked, I think, for a tackle before, believe it. And I've never tackled anyone in my life, so that's quite funny. And
it's not your job to tackle it, is it?
Exactly. So, and then I thought to myself, what am I doing? I've classed myself as an old man now. So, and then I started thinking I fancied myself, and I got sent off. So, I was what a mug I was.
I sympathise massively because if anyone who knows me it listens to this, they'll know that that's pretty much sums what I do every game up as a player.
Yeah, so that's how that come about anyway. So
any sense of injustice or that I'm not getting it my own way, I just lose my head. So I completely sympathise with you, but like you say, it's not big, it's not clever, but we've all done it. Exactly. I don't know if you have, Rich, when you played, but I don't think you ever got booked, did you?
I was pretty much unblemished, mate. I got sent off once in the first 10 seconds of a 6-a-side game for telling a referee to fuck off.
Brilliant.
Hey, we've all been there, mate. Don't worry. No.
It was for something it was as ridiculous as him awarding a throw-in, and I didn't think the ball had gone out, and I told him to fuck off, and he sent me off. It wasn't my proudest moment. I apologise to him afterwards, but yeah, I think
lots of time for anything like that.
As they say, it's those little things, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Especially in those big games on a Wednesday night down at the Uni AstroTurf,
Hey, they're all big games. Don't worry about that.
Any game you're playing's big, isn't it? So obviously after that game obviously wasn't a particularly high point for you, but after that obviously there was a change in management. How did you feel when Brian kind of went? Because obviously you said you really were looking forward to playing for him, and then he's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it was obviously in football I was still probably young in the game really, but obviously I respected him. He brought me to the club, and he'd made me feel welcome, and everyone at the club have made me feel welcome and stuff like that. And, but I also understood that football works. So, new managers come and go. That's how it works. It's like with players really as well. That's how it goes. But obviously Brian left. And it was a case of, you need to roughly get on with it. You can't, at the end of the day, managers come and go. You need, people at clubs 10 years and they could have 4 or 5 managers, but you have to get on with it.
And what was your reaction? Obviously, once you had Billy Russell and then Jan Molby came in, was that like big anticipation?
Well, obviously, you look at Jan, he's in football terms, massive name.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I got on fantastic with him. He was fantastic with me as well. Personally, as a man manager, stuff like that. He was again, going back to old, it's a boring story, this, but probably I suffered, could never really get fit. I was injured quite a bit and stuff like that. But I'd have like a run of games, then I'd have a niggling injury, and then I'd be out, and then back in, and out again. But as a manager, he was the one really who really like kept me upbeat, and said, you're a massive part of my plans, and I want you here. Why I'm here, you'll be here, kind of thing.
Yeah. He felt like he backed
exactly.
you kind of straight
player,
away.
As a player, that's massive, really.
It was probably one of your best runs in the team, actually, wasn't it, Ryan?
So obviously, Jan, again, we go back to opinions, don't we? So, Jan fancied me. He liked me as a player. If I was fit and flying, no doubt he'd have played me regular, no problem. But again, another manager would not fancy you. And I also respect that, and that's how football works. That's how it is. But Jan was great with me, and he come in. He was a big presence, and he had his own ideas. We used to train 3 sessions a day when he was here.
But we had that last week as well. It sounds like a lot.
Believe it or not, obviously you look at Jan Mulvey and you think, nah, he can't be a fitness freak, can he? 3 sessions a day. I'm not having that. But he was, he was. He used to get us in 7 in the morning swimming, and then we'd have breakfast, train morning, dinner, train afternoon, and it just repeat. So it was basically, obviously, he bought his little ideas, from Liverpool and stuff like that. And,
do you think that was something that did you take that to that all right? Did you not mind it?
Do you know what?
Personally,
I didn't mind it all because it was it was like a new thing to me, really. And do you know what? Probably a new kind of training regime for a lot of players because twice a day was fine, but 3 times a day was probably unheard of. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's quite groundbreaking for the time, wasn't it? Because
I remember it being it was spoken about quite a lot, wasn't it, at the time? Because there'd been the talk when Brian left that perhaps the team weren't fit enough, and I think that had a bit to do with the lack of facilities at times in that season as well, because you'd lost the training pitch, hadn't you, at the uni and things like that. So I think that played into it, and then Jan obviously wanted to put a marker down in terms of getting the squad up to a level of fitness that he thought was acceptable.
That's right. Yeah, I think there probably was that little thing involved. I think he probably come in and want to put a stamp on it. Really, he realised that he wanted. Obviously, we didn't really have a base as such. We got the uni as such, but we obviously got that took away from us, and then we moved up to Cottingham, and we started using their facilities up there. But I think it was just when Jan come in. I think he wanted to try that little difference, to see if it would be that give us that edge, kind of thing. Looking back on it, you probably think, well, did we overtrain? I'm an honest believer that I don't think you can overtrain. I think you're either fit or you're not.
It's an easy thing to say in hindsight as well, isn't it? I think when like now as we know that Jan's spell was unsuccessful, you can kind of pick out the bones of things that at the time might not seem like much, and say, well, that might not have helped and blah, blah, blah. But had it paid off for him, people would be looking at it and saying that's a great move. He's got the squad ready, and it's an easy thing to say. It was the wrong thing to do.
Exactly. The thing is, it's like again, we got. Obviously, football is quite. When you look at it, obviously, especially a manager, you've got it's a results business, isn't it? And you're expected to get results quick. And also as a team, as a player, you are as well. You expect to perform. You expect to get results. And and the thing is, if that don't happen, questions get answered, don't they?
Yeah.
And and the thing was, I think with Jan, I think he probably, looking back, he probably tried too much too soon, kind of thing.
And I think that was a lot of the way that City were operating at the time was, too much too soon, because Adam Pearson had come in just before you were signed, and that season, that you were signed 13 new players. Brian doesn't get the full season, maybe feels that he would have turned it around had he been able to. And then Jan comes in, you get another summer of turnover where 11 players come in or something like that. And that sort of speaks to the way that the club was set up. They were pushing it that hard to get out of the third division at the time that, they were throwing everything at it. There was nothing that wasn't tried, really.
No, that's right. Obviously, when you look at the the bigger picture, Hull City is a massive football club, and you think they shouldn't where they was at that time. At that time, it was a joke, really.
It should never have been down there. It was mismanagement and
the size of the football club, never in a million years, not in a million years, and the thing was, I think they wanted to do it that quick, and unfortunately, finances, they help, but also it don't happen overnight. Listen, we'd like it to, but also realistically, it don't, does it? So
no,
not at all.
And the thing is, obviously, people who, not everyone, but football fans want success straight away. And do you know what? I totally get that, Paul, because they pay the money, and they come every week, and you know what? They've got a right to an opinion as well. I have no problem with that. That's football fans, and I'm no different. I mean, I go and watch football games now, and I'm probably exactly the same. I have an opinion on the game. But the thing is, like I say, the size of that football club, they probably wanted it to happen tomorrow, really.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like he was trying a bit too much too soon and just chucking money at it in desperation.
I believe that's probably what was happening.
Obviously, we talked about Jan Molby just then, and then after he's gone, we've then got Billy Russell in for a bit, and in comes Peter Taylor. We kind of in a similar situation as you were when Peter came in as to when Jan came in.
Initially, yeah. I played against obviously a few of Peter Taylor's sides before. So it's a team, and I thought he'd gone well and stuff like that, and I'd been involved in the England youth setup as a young boy.
Yeah, you had an under-18 cap.
Yeah, I played 17, 18s, and so obviously he was a big part of that setup, like the FA setup.
Yeah.
So obviously he wasn't. Obviously he weren't he wasn't the manager or he weren't the coach or anything. But obviously he was in that in that circle. But obviously, so I knew, and obviously he knew of me. I knew of him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Didn't really know him as such, but when he come in, I obviously knew that what he'd done in the game, and again, it was exciting times. So I was thinking, well, I'm going to be working with like a guy who's, he's managed England kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you get better than that? And it's not only that, but as a player, that's like a dream come true. Really, you want to learn from like, the tip top, don't you? So I was like, well, I can't wait for him. That's a great appointment. I can't wait to get working with him, kind of thing. So initially, it was fantastic. We had a great relationship, and he's going hunky dory, and the results were flying in, and it was City were flying really.
Did it? What changed? Did it? Because it sounds like from what you said, it kind of changed.
Well, basically, what changed was obviously again we go back to the own scenario. I had a hand fracture, so I fractured my hand.
Right.
And I was in pot for 7-8 weeks, and then I had a virus. Believe it or not.
I will believe it if you're telling me.
No, exactly. I know it sounds boring, but
it's not boring, mate. Trust me.
But this is the story of it. So then I had a virus, so that led me for another 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah. And
then basically I missed the opening of the KC.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was literally in Old Royal then.
Really?
Yeah. So obviously looking over the way, and obviously game going off, and I was again. I had a virus in Old Royal, sat in a hospital bed. It was all right, laugh.
Good God.
So, come and have a look what you could have won.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So yeah, but basically going back to Peter Taylor, initially it was great, but then I think the sour part for me was I still say to this day that he is the best football coach I've ever worked with. Mate, it was fantastic. As a player, you've got to be honest with yourself and say, well, actually, you want to learn from the best. And you know what? As a coach, he was the best I worked with.
Yeah. Right.
As a coach and like the knowledge of the game and stuff like that. But it was just, for me, I was more gutted the way it ended, really, because I'll tell you how it ended. I'll be honest with you. I ended up playing, I was back probably 10 days training.
Yeah.
I come back 10 days and we played York. We played York at KC Stadium. And I'd only been, like I say, I'd not been back that long. And you know what? I weren't match fit. I weren't sharp. I weren't anything.
Well, if you've been in Hull Royal in hospital, then you're not going to be.
This is like quite a few weeks after that.
Right. Okay. Right.
But the bottom line is, I'd only been back training about 10 days. Right. So obviously, I weren't match fit. I weren't sharp, and I've been training, and I'd done all right. But then he basically said, "Oh, you're playing on Saturday." So I was like, "All right, fair enough." Deep down, I was made up. I was thinking, "Oh, great!" I've got back involved, and I love it. That's great. Yeah. I've got back quick time. But looking back,
you're not going to say no, are you?
Exactly. I'm not going to say no. But looking back on it, I was nowhere near sharpness, match fitness, nowhere near. So, so looking back, and then obviously I come back. I got dragged after 70 minutes, and after the game, a few words were said, and basically he went from there, and then basically I was in and out. I was off the bench every now and then, in, out, and then I was literally about 2 months later. He said to me, he rang me, and I was on a golf course actually playing at Old Golf Club.
Right.
And he said to me, I had a missed call, so I rang him back. He said, do you fancy going out on loan? I said, well, not really. He went, well, I think it'd be a good idea for you, to get some game time or some minutes under your belt. And I was like, okay, fair enough. He was like, well, obviously you've been coming off 15, 20 minutes here and there. I was like, do you know what? Fair enough. That's, if I can get a few 90 minutes on my belt, that'd be good for me.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. So he went, you've got a few options. So he went, reeled the clubs off. So anyway, obviously ended up, I was going to Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, not near.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly. So in Bristol Rovers, so I ended up going there. And then from that, this is where it ended up going a bit sour, really, because at the time I was going on, they was due to play Hull, in the game.
Yeah.
And basically, we had 5 games on loan on a month. There was one in the cup, which I was cup tied. I had 1 against Hull, and then I had 3 games. I forgot who I was playing against, but basically I could play 3 out of the 5.
Yeah.
And basically Ray Graydon, who was a manager at the time, said to me, I spoke to Peter. He said he's quite willing for you to play against him, no problem. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, he's quite happy for you to play against him. I was like, yeah, but it's my parent club. I'm like, I'm still Hull City player. I can't do that, surely. He was like, well, that's what he said. And I was like, do you know what? So anyway, I tried calling him. He won't answer. Tried calling him, won't answer. So I carried on. And eventually I got that frustrated. I was like, do you know what? I'll just play. I'll just play. But the problem was, I was thinking I'm in a no-win situation here.
Yeah.
So, because obviously I don't want to play. I've got a lot of friends at my club. It's my club I'm actually with. I don't want to go against them. And also, if I don't play very well, they're going to say, well, he didn't perform, kind of thing.
He's kind of proved them right.
That's a really tough one, though, that, isn't it? Because it's making you out to be a bit of a target there.
The best thing for me was not to play.
Yeah.
In my view.
Because then it's not an issue then.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then it's not an issue because in my art of art, I've still thought my future was at Hull City.
Because if you've got to go back there and you've scored 2 against them, then the fans are going to be like, what's this guy's deal?
it's not rocket
No,
science,
it's
is
not.
it?
No,
So,
it's
exactly.
a bit of an odd one. That there's a reason I think in most loans that you can't play against your parent club.
Exactly. So as more as I stewed on it, I was more gutted than anything. I was like, do you know what? I don't think he's showed that much respect to me. Really, he's not answered my calls. He's not told me face to face. And do you know what? Yeah, I'll just go about business. I'll play my football. That's what I do, and then just carry on.
And
Obviously, what happened, and do you know, it's not. And do you know what? From that, it just went from there, but that's not the way I wanted it to happen. Do you know, I wanted to be an All City player, but that he chose basically that I went in his plans. But I'd rather him just tell me face to face.
Yeah, I suppose there's a way to do your business, isn't there?
But let me tell you now, that's not knocking Peter Taylor, because I'll still say, and or not, he's the best coach I've ever worked with.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? More than anything, it's not like you would slag him for it. It's just like you're disappointed. You're disappointed the way it ended out, and you still got all that respect for him with him being an excellent coach and the best you've worked for. But you just like, that's a sour note, isn't it? Because you didn't want that to happen, sort of thing.
Exactly, I didn't want that to happen, and then I want to be an All City player, and I didn't want to. It ended on a sour note, really, and that's not the way I wanted it to end. You know, I've got a lot of friends, and I've got a lot of. Well, I've still got friends there now who work there now, and you know, my lad's at the academy. He's been there since he was 9.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a big part of that football club, and I still go up there probably 4 times a week.
Yeah. How old is he? Your lad who's at the academy?
He's 15.
Right.
So he's been there since he was 9. So he's up there, and you know, it means a lot, you know, to the family, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did it feel when you scored that day, Ryan?
Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'll be totally truthful here. Initially, I was angry, and I was also thinking, do you know what? I wanted to really just like scream. Really, I was like, I just want to prove a point to him.
Yeah, we did prove a point there by scoring against us. It was.
Yeah, I did, but that's not the way I wanted to happen.
No,
End of the day, you're paid to play football, so you know whatever football club you're playing for, it's a job, and you know whatever club you're at, you get paid to play, and that's it. Do you know? And the thing was, all I wanted to do is, I didn't want to play against Hull. Never in a million years. Never in a million years. But obviously that might have took out my hands.
I was going to say, it's taking out your hands there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that was the only sour point, really. But going back, like I say, they were good times. I loved it all, and that's why I've always stayed around here.
Yeah. So obviously later on in your career, obviously you went to Bristol, and you had a couple of loan spells there as well, didn't you? Forest Green and Aldershot, I think.
Yeah. I went to Forest Green. For a couple of months, and then I signed for Aldershot. I signed a couple of years at Aldershot when they were in their conference. So again, it was a big culture shock, you know, moving down London, like south and stuff like that. I'm a northern boy, you know, like southern things don't work for me.
No. That's again, it's out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pie and mash.
Yeah, through northern lads.
Exactly, northern boy. Yeah, so it was a bit culture shock for me again. So I lived in Reading,
right?
So we lived in there was a lad who used to share a flat there. The club had a flat, so I lived there for 2.5 years or something like that. And then I used to travel back at weekends to see my boy and my girl.
Yeah. Is it tough doing that?
It is. It's a massive, like I say, when you're playing all over the country. Because at conference, you've got everyone. You've got Torquay, you've got,
some of the journeys in the conference are an absolute joke, aren't they?
Exactly. They were big, big travel. But luckily, at the time when I signed, I used to say, well, obviously, family's a big thing to me, so I need to be back at they used to give me Mondays off, to be fair, sometimes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just come Saturdays and then travel back on Monday night.
They're quite understanding about it.
Yeah, there was, yeah. Unless we got beat badly, and then I'd be in Sunday.
Double training.
So then I'd never be able to go home.
Yeah. Because after all,
I used to blame it on everyone else.
After Aldershot and then Weymouth, you went back to your hometown, didn't you? Go to Mansfield Town again? Was like a nice homecoming for you?
Well, it was, yeah. Obviously, I was born there.
Yeah.
That's where I started my career. Obviously, YTS and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it was like probably surreal, really. And then I got made, obviously, captain at football club for a couple of years, and that was a big honour for me, really.
Yeah.
To go there, and obviously all my schoolmates and family members and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They was all there, and so it ended on a real good note,
Yeah.
really. And you know what, I was happy as Larry.
I bet.
Just to give a bit back, because to be fair to them, Mansfield, there was a big. I was there from 14, 15, 16, and then so I'd been through their youth, their youth level. Yeah. And then they put a lot of work into me and stuff like that. And then obviously I got moved to Tranmere when I broke in and stuff like that. But I owe them a lot, really. It was nice just to finish off there, really.
Yeah, because then a couple of years later, you've then gone to North Ferriby United, so then you're back around the area, aren't you? Because was that the season that you got promotion to Conference North?
Again, we're going to obviously Ferriby. Billy was in charge. Billy was in charge. My daughter was actually real big friends with his daughter.
Right.
That's how the connection came. Yeah. And I was playing at Gainsborough at the time, and he said, "Tell you what, why don't you come and play for me for a couple of seasons?" And I was like,
"Why not?
Do I? Don't I? Do I?" I was like, "Do you know what?" And I thought, "Do you know what? It's about 2 minutes from my house. What am I messing about?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll have a bit of that." So ended up, yeah. And do you know what? It was unbelievable times. We won the treble. Yeah. There was a great set of lads there. There was Paul Foot, Ryan Kendall, who was a young boy at Hull City when he was a kid. A lot of experienced campaigners and stuff like that. But we had a great time there. And you look at that football club now, and I just hope they get back to where they want to be. Les is back in charge now, which is
he is. I mean, it's a bit of a personal one for me because I actually work at North Ferriby United now.
Oh,
I'm
do you really?
Press officer at North Ferriby because Les hired me about 3 or 4 games before the coronavirus shut down.
I don't need to preach to you then.
So, no, not at all. But obviously, the club was in such dire straits after what happened. We don't need to go into that, but. It looked like the end of this season, North Ferriby had a chance of going up and starting that kind of train to go back up to where they wanted to be. But obviously, originally the weird thing was they were going to sort North East counties out to be points per game. When you do the average points per game, they'd have lost out by 2 goals, I think.
Which, to be fair, is shoulder.
Yeah, it is. But obviously, then they've declared it null and void, and. It's put them back at another season because they were wanting to go up straight away to the Prem, compete with teams like Goole and then try and even get out of that division. It's going to be a long road back, isn't it? But
it is. But I look at I still keep in contact with quite a lot of people down there, and I know. To be fair, I know quite a lot of the obviously younger lads who play there and stuff like that. Jamie Forrest
is still there, yeah.
I know his dad real well and his uncle, and and they'll be fine. They'll get back. They've got enough quality there to, especially Northern Counties.
Oh yeah,
they'll get back and they'll get back to where they belong, and you know what, they deserve it as well.
Yeah, they do. I mean, obviously, I'm a bit of City have always been my team, but when I was younger, I did go see North Ferriby occasionally, and that was. You
know what? They've done unbelievably well for last. I always say for a team of that stature, like a village team, I tell you what, if you look around the country, I bet there's not many teams with that popular who are that successful.
Yeah,
not in a chance.
Yeah. If we just go back to City 1 second, so we might be getting towards the end of the interview. So I want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure Rich is the same.
No, you're.
But
you're all right.
Do you have a best memory of being at Hull? That was one of my questions. I know Rich has got a couple of listeners' questions he's going to ask you, but
I have. To be fair, I have got a lot. Yeah. I think initially when I signed there, obviously the initial signing, and and obviously signing for that football club really.
Yeah.
The size of like playing, thinking, well, I'm going to be playing for a massive football club. I've been working all my life to try and succeed and play for a club of this stature.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I think we beat Scunny 4-0 in a local derby. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah. It's always good. It means more, doesn't it, in a derby?
Yeah, exactly. A local derby and you spank someone, it's even better, isn't
it? Especially Scunthorpe.
Exactly. I think this sounds tight, but we spanked Mansfield 4 as well, which was our club.
I always loved it when we beat Mansfield. There were a bit of...
Which was pretty nice as well, because there was a few... I was getting a bit of stick from behind the goal, so...
Yeah, I bet you were, yeah.
When I was taking corners and stuff, so...
They had a decent side back then as well, they were a bit of a thorn in our side,
They did, yeah. It's quite funny, really, because there was an old fullback called Les Robinson who... captain Mansfield at the time, played for Oxford and stuff like that, and he's quite like a family friend.
Yeah.
And he marked me that night actually, and he texted me the next morning. He went, "Do you know what? I'm retiring. I hate you." He went. Do you know when Ace puts pay? I went. Do you know what? I'm saying exactly the same. Exactly. I do get it. Yeah, totally.
Was that the game after Brian had been sacked?
I think you know what? I'm not 100% sure, but I think it could have been,
It's a night game at Beaufry Park, wasn't it?
It was a night game, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely blew them away. I think that was the one where...
it could have been 8-9, and they really grumbled, really.
It was where Norris scored for us, wasn't it? He was in on loan.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Always rely on Rich for the absolute facts.
I think Gary Bradshaw scored as well.
He did.
That's
right.
Ferriby, actually.
Yeah, Brad. Well, I work with Gary now. I work with
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so I work at Siemens now.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, it's our lives have changed.
All the ex-City connections.
Yeah, exactly, mate. So we've got a lot of lads at Siemens. Like I say, I work there, and I work with a great group of lads.
Yeah,
they're spot on. And but like I say, they were going, "Oh, when's this going to be cash? We'll listen to it." And stuff like that. I'll give you a shout out, boys.
Oh no, definitely. No, we appreciate you doing it. Obviously, the podcast thing was kind of an idea that I'd shared with Rich, and I never thought it'd be anything other than me and him just chatting about our favourite City memories, because there's no football. But to get people on that have played for the club and stuff, it's brilliant, isn't it, Rich? So.
Yeah, it's great to talk to people that have been involved in like special memories that we have. So it's real privilege.
Honestly, I'm not saying it, but I think it's great for the football club. Really, I think especially in times like this, I think it's important. Really, you're doing a grand job, and I'm not just saying.
It's very nice to hear that. Thank you. I think Rich, you had a couple of listeners' questions, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. A couple of friends of the show have sent in some questions. Harry Hainstock wanted to know, Ryan, did you feel like you got a fair crack of the whip while you were with City? Because I think we touched on it. You were, you'd have a run in the team and then you might be injured and come out. So did you think that you were given a go to be able to show what you could do?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think I did. I don't make injuries as excuses, not all. I think, I think City, when I was fit, they give me a first stab at it, really. I couldn't ask any more.
Yeah.
There was, I think it was fair. I don't think I can knock them for that. Not at all. I'd never knock the football club for that. And do you know what? At the end of the day, I won't change anything. The thing is, I appreciate, and I was, like I say, playing for that football club was a massive thing for me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And the other question we had, you probably laugh at this one, but again, friend of the show, Tom Markham sent me a text, and he wanted to know, did you ever know how good you were on Championship Manager 2001-2? Because apparently he used to sign you all the time for Man United as a backup to Beckham and Giggs, and he said that you were unreal. So,
I tell you what, funny story of this. This is a weird story. This, right? I got a phone call from a Scottish guy, literally about 6-7 years ago.
Right.
And he was writing a book for Championship Manager. Basically, he was saying, and I was at Mansfield at the time, and he was like, oh, he needs to speak to you. He wants to do an interview. I was like, oh, this is a wind up. You know what? I was thinking the lads are winding me up.
Yeah, it's all your teammates in corner.
I was like, good gag. Next.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, all right then, no problem. So anyway, he's like, no, this is serious. He wants to speak to you. So anyway, I ended up going in the office, and the receptionist said, oh, he wants to speak to you, and I was like, oh shit, actually, I best speak to him. So anyway, he's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing this book for, I think it was Championship Manager or Football Manager, whatever it was. He went, you've been come up in the top 10 all-time buys.
Really?
Successful buys. I was like, oh, right, okay. He was like, yeah. He was like 10 of you, and he went, I'll send you a copy of this book. And I was like, oh, brilliant, fantastic, that's good. He was like, yeah. He went, it's no problem. He went, but I just want to know a bit more about you, kind of thing. So I was like, well, there's not a lot to hear, really. I was like, what do you want to know?
See, that's in answer to that question. You actually knew that you were highly rated on those games, because obviously that's what people are writing books about it.
Yeah, and I've got the book at home now. So. But yeah, I think that's my claim to fame. Could you play football? Yeah, I was all right.
Yeah, I was a backup to Beckham and Giggs.
Championship Manager? Yeah, I was great. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, it's more than most of us can say for ourselves, right? Yeah. So, you know. Yeah. And just one last one that I had from my brother, Rob. He wondered, like, looking at the way that City played when you were with us, did you ever like look at the guy on the opposite wing to you, David Beresford, and think that you wouldn't have minded somebody of, you know, maybe a bit different in terms of what they gave to you, you know, because you and Dave Beresford, as I remember it, and as my brother remembers it, you were quite similar players, you know, in stature and in terms of what you brought to the team. Did you ever think that somebody else would have suited it better to give the team a little bit more, you know, differentiation in terms of the attack?
I think wingers are wingers. I think the old-fashioned winger, obviously, me and Bezza were probably a bit old-fashioned, really. We was probably relied on, obviously, not on stature, but we relied a lot on pace and you know,
hit the touchline and beat your man, get the ball over.
Like you say, darting runs and stuff like that, which gives it's a different, like for a fullback, it's different, like I say. It's hard for them to mark sometimes, but I think from a stature point of view, you could have probably said someone who's probably more athletic, bigger, physical. But at the end of the day, wingers, an out-and-out winger, were probably known as quick, direct, and, you know, they weren't, you know, modern day ones are probably different, but I think when we played, me and Bezza, was probably a bit different, you know.
Yeah,
it was more quick, direct, get past your fullback, whip a crossing, job done.
Yeah. Anybody who played against you, if you ever swapped wings, they'd just be like, "Oh, bloody hell!" I didn't think both of them.
Me and Bezza used to speak like that all the time. He'd say, "Do you know what?" And the thing was, sometimes you might get a fullback who's obviously quick and good defending. You used to be like, "I'm not getting a lot of joy here. Do you want to swap?"
Yeah.
I'll swap now.
Yeah.
And you know what? He used to come to me sometimes and say, "Right, switch over now." He was like, let me have a stab at him, kind of thing, you know. And do you know what? Sometimes it worked as well, do you know.
Well, yeah, because there was more to, I mean, both of you's game than just your pace alone, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was,
you know, it wasn't.
Well, it was, yeah, it was a lot to do with pace, and like I say, and again, I look at the game now; it's changed, you know. But when you're talking like it's changing all the time, Do you know, we played in a game when what 96, 2001, 2002, 2003, where it's like what 18 years ago.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a long time ago.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, exactly. So you move with the times, don't you? But at that time, I don't think I'd have changed anything. I think that's how it was.
yeah.
You know, you come up against like you looked at your fullback and you think, do you know what, I can get better with you today.
Yeah.
So let's have it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
that's great. Ryan, I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us on the podcast.
No, mate, any time, mate. Like I say, any time you want to speak, mate, just give us a buzz.
That's great stuff.
That's brilliant.
But like I say, going back to all, mate, I wish them all success, and like I say, hopefully they get back and they do, you know, back to where they belong, kind of thing.
Yeah, we all hope.
Just back playing and be a star.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I think everyone would be saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, cheers, Ryan. Thank you.
Mate, you're welcome. No problem at all, mate.
That's great. On Tigers podcast, obviously, on the social medias, if you want to check us out, obviously, Ryan will be telling his workmates about it. It's at Tigers Blar on Twitter, and it's at Tigers Podcast on Facebook. Goodbye from me. I'm sure it's goodbye from Rich as well. Cheers, Ryan. We will speak to you soon.
You're welcome, boys. Okay, doing a grand job.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, mate.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. All the best.
Look after yourself. Take care.
You too.
Bye.